Okay, music is done. Uh, Hello, welcome to Left for Random Talk. I am Helens20.
And I'm Rev.
We finally got the starting up a bit more professional.
Yes. And hopefully I'm coming in much better than usual.
Yeah. So I'm actually just gonna close the Twitch page and leave the YouTube page open so I can add stuff to the description. We don't have Blob tonight, and we don't have Bill. So, yeah, it's just gonna be us again tonight. And we're gonna take, I guess you could say, we're gonna take a bit of a risk and have a game going on in the background.
Change things up a bit.
Yeah.
See
And
what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, and the game we're gonna be playing, I'm going to be playing, is Terraria. This is gonna be interesting because I've never been on the server before.
I will not be playing a game today. I'm too easily distracted.
Also, because the only way you'll be able to stream a game, play a game and then have it show on our stream is if you're the one streaming.
Yeah. Anyway, what about the images for tonight? We still gonna do that, or?
Oh, definitely. When we get to
cool.
When we get to a segment that requires, well,
visual aid.
Yeah. Then I'll see about pausing the game and showing them on screen.
Right then. So, once again, tonight we are a bit on the short end, like before. Again, not much goes on in our week, so bear with us.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight's topics are of the following. The first topic, the console wars, how it changed over time and how it rages to this day. Gears of War, our thoughts, what games we liked, and what we want to see in the future. Why do most game movies turn out so bad? Are there any good ones out there? Eternal Darkness, Nintendo's only rated M game, what we think about it. And of course, we have the end of the show, I suppose, is our 10-minute bootleg toys, what we might find. And lastly, we have the Mobile Suit of the Month winner.
As well as the Pokemon of the Month.
Oh yeah, and the Pokemon of the Month. I forgot to add that. All right then. So what should we pick first?
Let me do something real quick. In fact, let me just close the map. I don't need to see that. How about the game movies? Because that seems to be a big thing.
All right then. So we're going with, why do most video game movies turn out so poorly? All right. Boy. So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure about. Sorry, carry on.
Go ahead. I was about to say, well, let's start with one of the earliest examples I think of when it comes to video game movies, and that was the Doom live-action movie.
Oh God, that horrible thing?
The one that basically killed the franchise of Doom for a good while. It was horrible. So, a little behind the scenes of the Doom movie. The director behind it is a prick.
Plain and simple.
That's
He's a dick.
Yes. No, he actually is. Actually, I'm going to look up the guy's name real quick, and I will tell you who he is, because I know this guy has a history.
Oh boy.
Trust me, Ilbo, I believe. Let me see.
Great. That's just great. Somebody guessed penis in a mini game. Great.
Nice. Look at that demonetization immediately. No.
Someone guessed trash. Carry on.
Right. Uwe is infamous for creating, basically destroying everything we, everything we love about game movies. And basically, he has been on, I believe, he has been on record stating that he does not give a shit about the fans or the games that he's supposed to be making. And nowhere does that show with Doom and Blood Rain.
I want to point this out. Even The Rock hated that movie.
Oh, yes. The only thing, I think he stated that the only thing he liked was that he got to use the BFG, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
He also made the 2 Alone in the Dark movies. Those were also horrible. In fact, I think the only movie he's actually done correctly is Postal, and that's only because the original game makers were on his case half the time. Yeah, let that sink in. Uwe has basically butchered every video game movie adaptation out there, mostly because he has gone on record to admit that he has not cared about the fans of these games, and basically stated that he knows they'll come out to watch this shit because it's their favorite video games turned to movies. No one likes the man, and he's a total prick. It should also be stated that because of all these, because of how poorly he'd done these movies and everything, that he was basically thrown out of Hollywood. At this time, I believe, according to his wiki, he is now a, what's that say? Restaurateur? I don't know what that means.
Restaurateur or something like that?
Tear, yeah, like something weird like that. Basically, he's basically just living his life now as the most hated man by the fans, and basically just wasting away in some restaurant. We can only hope. He's currently 52, so think about it this way, folks: we won't have to put up with him long, and we can dance on his grave later. Give it about 20 more years. He does have. Go ahead.
Oh, nothing.
He doesn't. Like I said, he's a prick and he deserved it. But unfortunately, Uwe has created the trend of making terrible live-action video game adaptations for a quick buck, and that has unfortunately continued to this day.
How many other movies has he made exactly?
Hold on, let me check. Hold on, I'll go back to his wiki page because I left it. Movies. Let's see here. Films, here we go. He has made and directed several 2 horror films that were not video game based, and that was Black Woods and Heart of America.
Oh, great.
Yes, he's credited as co-writer. As for video game movies, he is responsible for House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark, Alone in the Dark 2, Blood Rain 1, 2, and 3, Deliverance, In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale, Postal, Far Cry, and Doom. Oh, he also did Seed. Let's see. A movie called Auschwitz, which I suppose was
which we are not going to focus on too much.
Oh, no, I'm saying it was likely a documentary by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did Seed, he did that. Got a Pulitzer. He was banned from the Austin Film Festival in October 2010. No surprise. Yep, that's about it. The guy's done some movies.
Has any of them
And they,
done good though? Like, is there anyone that has saved his ass?
I would only say Postal, but that is a very slim bar. Again, because it's Postal. That's literally just low-hanging fruit.
I remember seeing Steam Workshop with the Postal on or something like that.
Again, please note, people, we're not putting his image on this, mostly because, well,
We don't care.
we just exactly. It's not because we're afraid of getting in trouble with the guy or any bullshit like that. No, it's just we don't care. He's minuscule and deserves to remain so. Anyway, video game movies. Sorry, I'm typing something. Have oftentimes been a mixed bag, with some being good and others being pretty shit. And it kind of boils down to how closely the studios will follow the source material. I mean, we've got like the old Mario's Brothers live
I
action
loved
movie,
that
for
movie.
example. It was cheesy, it was bad, but it had heart. Was it a good Mario movie though? Hell no. It was terrible.
Gods, no.
It's like they go the entire movie without even donning on their clothing until the very end. Idiots. Resident Evil, the live action series, it is a mixed bag, with some action scenes being good, but overall the story just completely disrespecting the source material. It was after 2 that the movie series basically just said, okay, we're going to do our own thing now. It's why I oftentimes say only watch the live action Resident Evil 1 and 2. Those are the only movies worth watching. There's also the Silent Hill live action movie. One I have seen both part 1 and 2. Part 1 is okay, except the director apparently did not like men and casted the role as casted the main lead as from a male to female because
Ah,
he
crap.
just main,
Oh, no!
the main I knew this was gonna happen.
Well, Terraria crashed.
What? What crash?
Terraria crashed. We're not going to be playing multiplayer Terraria.
Okay, so then we're moving on.
2 single player, so be ready for me to panic.
Oh,
All you're going to see on screen is me digging. Just carry on.
Yes. Like I said, hold on. The Silent Hill movie, the first one was all right. I mean, it did try to be as faithful to the original Silent Hill formula, but unfortunately, it kind of devolved into doing its own thing. The second one is slightly better because it kind of follows the same beats as Silent Hill 3, the game. Unfortunately, it devolves into doing its own thing. You're starting to see a pattern here. It's kind of repetitious. The only ones I can list off the top of my head that actually do the respect to the source and are good is the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney live action.
Really?
Yeah, there's a Ace Attorney live action.
I remember seeing images and like gifs of it, but I didn't think it was real.
It is real, and it is actually pretty good. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Ace Attorney games. I mean, I find them interesting. I just never sat down to play them. But they do everything so well and so competently made that to this day, I'm hoping a sequel is made. It is amazing. It is funny and it is well done. And everyone's in costume. Like there's no entire hour that goes by without people in costume. Like everyone is dressed up as the part. And it's amazing. Let's see what else. The Mortal Kombat live action movie.
I love those movies too.
Yeah, and they actually here's the funny thing. They're actually the mold for the current game. And it's crazy.
Yeah. 2 was a bit iffy, but it was still in its own right, it was good because the movie was meant to be cheesy.
It was rushed. It was very obviously rushed at two.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, one was all right. It was slow, well done, and actually in the 2009 Mortal Kombat game, they took elements from the movie and made it into the game itself. Like they took everything and made it their own, which I loved. Two, unfortunately, was very rushed, and it was very clear they were just kind of rushing to profit off of what, make a quick sequel, make a quick buck, and unfortunately, it shows.
Yep.
I mean, for God's sake, Sector doesn't even show up. It's only Cyrax, and he dies in like 5 minutes. In fact, everyone dies in 5 minutes. It sucks.
Jade dies.
And Jade dies. Horrible. It's like,
yes,
and everyone died.
The stripper in the group dies.
Yep.
We were meant to feel sorry for her? Question mark?
Exactly, in huge question marks, I might add. What else? Oh, and the other one, I can say does the job well, is the World of Warcraft live-action movie.
Okay, I'm going to point this out. I was working at a movie theater, like, back in 2016, and I was working when that came out.
Okay.
Oh boy, there were so many neckbeards.
There were so many, and the sea of neckbeards
like
came out before us.
Granted, it was not as bad as Finding Dory. I will never ever watch that movie because of that horror.
You know what's weird? I believe. Actually, no, I'm not going to even say that because it's too raw. We're not even going there.
I don't want to know then.
Yeah, you don't. But that's what I'm saying. The World of Warcraft movie was really well done, and I watched it with my father and his girlfriend, and they were interested. But of course, since I'll admit I've not played Warcraft, but I have followed the story. From those channels that always do that thing. The ones that explain the story. So when I was watching the movie, I knew what was going to happen, and when my father was confused on some things, I said, "No, it happened in the game. It was supposed to happen like that." It was all right, and it followed its roots quite well. Those are the only 3 movies I can think off the top of my head right now that paid tribute and proper homage to video games as a whole.
So, quick recap, because I freaked out over the crash of the game. The 3 movies were Mortal Kombat, Ace Attorney, and World of Warcraft. Is that correct?
Yep. Those are the only 3 I can honestly say did their job correctly. All the other movies I'm so tired of these movies, these video game movies, and being so shit that I've basically just said, if every time they release a video game movie, I'm either going to wait for it to come out on DVD or just watch it online.
Yeah. We usually just wait till it's on Netflix. Even then, we don't really watch game movies here.
No, I wait to pirate everything. I have sources. I am connected.
Do you remember that this is being live streamed? People hear that.
I know.
I don't have any bombs.
No, but anyway, like I said, actually, I'll say this. Unfortunately, I can't even say the Ratchet and Clank game was good. Unfortunately, it was. It really wasn't.
I was happy that they finally got a movie, but this is the thing about me. I am a huge Ratchet and Clank fan, and I didn't even get past the first 5 minutes.
No, it's a miniaturized reboot of the series, and unfortunately, it doesn't flow well. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's a pseudo reboot where like Ratchet's backstory from the first game is ejected, but parts of it are still there. It's just like no. I think the only joke in that entire movie that I laughed at was the the bit where after a little bit, Ratchet completely and utterly, fucks up, right?
Yep.
And after that, Clank comes to console them and says, "Do not worry, Ratchet. It was not a complete disaster." Immediately afterwards, someone says, "What many are calling a complete disaster," and it's his boss trying to watch.
That is the humor of Ratchet and Clank, and that's amazing.
Yes, and the moment his boss accidentally it has the news on blast, and you see him panicking, just smashing his remote control, trying to lower the volume with his biggest "oh shit" face. Again, it's that kind of humor that is missing from a lot of these game movies.
Yeah.
I mean, would humor make these movies more enjoyable? I don't think so.
Some of them, yes. Others, no.
Very, very little of them, I would say. I mean, obviously, not all of them are terrible, terrible movies. I mean, you have some of the Final Fantasy movies.
I'm so tired of Final Fantasy. It's everywhere.
I'll be contrarian and say I only enjoy 7. I don't bother with anything else, and that's about it. And that's what I was going to say. Final Fantasy VII's Advent Children movie is pretty good.
Because again, that was really, really pretty for the time.
Yes, but it's also kind of messed up. What with the child death and everything, or children death, I should say.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, didn't need to know this. It's like I'm usually all up for more realistic things in my movies, but at the same time, like this is too much. We didn't need this. So yeah, like I said in the beginning, there are a lot of game movies out there coming out recently that seem to be trying to be proper, kind of continuations or reimaginings of the original games of their time, but unfortunately, so many of them colossally fuck it up that a lot of people, myself included, would just say, "Nah, I'll wait till it comes out on DVD or I'll watch it online somewhere."
Or I'm never going to touch this with a 200-foot pole.
Exactly, that too. And, unless you're Ul Bol, who deserves everything that happens to you, I feel sorry for most of the directors behind these movies. Because you've just spent your entire time and money making a movie no one's going to watch. How do you... It's like, I just
how
picture
them... How do you recover from that?
Both, yeah, financially and mentally. It's like, I pity to find out how you wake up, go put yourself to sleep at night. I really do.
Yep.
But hey, I'm not the one who makes this shit.
Nope. I think I think another reason why these get out of here. Another reason why these game movies do so poorly is because there are going to be actors and actresses that are in this movie that know the game well. Like take Rampage for example, which I still have yet to see, and I want to see it, regardless of how terrible people think it is. I want to see it. Right. Like the thing with Rampage is that The Rock, who is the main character in the movie, has been playing the arcade game Rampage, like the original, since he was a little kid. And he knows everything about the lore. He knows everything about the game. And then you have directors and producers and writers who don't know anything, and all their mind is set on is profit. Profit, profit, profit. It doesn't matter if it's sourced material, if it is the same as the material, they're going to make money off of this. Who cares?
Exactly.
It's got the title of the game in it. People are going to watch it.
Just like I said, that's exactly what Ul Bol banked on when he did Doom and many of the other games. Like he did not give a shit about the games. And again, this was back in the day where video game movies weren't these huge things like the Avengers. No, these were back when like it was a risk and very small groups would come. It would be really easy for people who actually played it, like the actors and so on, to come up and say, no, this isn't right, and actually challenge the director. In fact, I'm about 50% sure that when Doom was being made, The Rock was actively trying to tell the guy, no, don't do this, because it does seem like he was a fan of the original game. That's what it looks like to me.
I follow The Rock's Twitter, and he does everything he can to just take a massive shit on that movie. There are a lot of worms coming at me. What the hell?
In all honesty, he does. Like, if I could ever say personally to The Rock, I would say this: for the love of God, punch Ulbo in the face next time you see him, please. That's it. That's all I have to say to the man. If I could say that to him, as like, if I could give him any amount of money, or if this was a one-time fan request, I would just that right on the spot.
Punch this guy for charity. He'd
do exactly.
It. He would do
I
it.
would
He would do it. That's the thing. He would do it.
Exactly. You know what? We shall start a charity. We shall start a punch Ulbo in the face charity. That's what we must do.
All proceeds go to hunger. People struggling with hunger.
No, all proceeds go to the Rock's bodybuilders.
No. That's another thing about following his Twitter. All that shit is natural.
Oh God.
And he works hard to make sure it stays that way.
You know what? No, I respect the man for that. I respect him.
How about a charity to keep his dogs fat and happy?
Yeah, you know what? Yes, charity.
I do remember he has like a little French bulldog, because I think the other one died.
Oh. All right. You know what? Yes, we'll do this now. We will make a charity to keep the Rock's dog fat and happy.
Do note that we are joking.
Yes,
or
please don't actually do this. Or are we? It's like, yes, I'm on the bank right now.
Hey, there's one thing you should know about me and Rev. We love our dogs. Even if they're very, very stupid.
Yes. Again, to this day, Logan still barks at my model kits, thinking they're little people. He doesn't understand the concept of a toy.
Even though Cooper's not my dog, he does bark at his own farts.
That's like that bit from Family Guy when Brian wakes himself up with his own fart.
Well, here's the thing. Cooper is a teeny tiny chihuahua who looks like a golden retriever was shrunken down and then blended with a fox. Because sometimes I think there's a fox in the yard, but no, it's just him.
Fair enough. Okay, have we covered everything about these terrible, terrible movies?
Some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them they need less people with the mindset of profit and more people with the mindset of, yay, I love this game.
Exactly. Again,
and Bull is a piece of shit.
Yeah. Still, if you guys enjoy any of these terrible movies we talk about, you know what? You have the right to enjoy it. I just want you to know you're wrong. No, I'm kidding.
We just want you to know that to us they're not great, but we're not gonna complain.
Yeah, we're not gonna pick on you.
No, not that much.
At least it's like not at least out loud. Anyway, so
it's like that bit from Lego Batman where he's trying to whisper, but somehow she keeps hearing him. He's like, how high up in the air? He's like 30 feet in the air and she can still hear him?
Well, wait, is this like the new commissioner woman who was Batgirl? Well, there you go. She was Batgirl. She was probably trained to hear at high altitudes. Anyway. All right, so that covers video game movies. What's our next topic?
Oh, let's see. Gonna underline that one so it's out of the way. Huh.
Yeah, like always.
We're not gonna be able to do the bootleg thing, I just noticed.
All right, then.
Because Blob's not here to enjoy it, so no.
All right, then we'll just remove that. So we only have 3 topics tonight. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
All right. So our next topics are the console wars, Gears of War, and Eternal Darkness.
How about Eternal Darkness?
Okay then, Eternal Darkness it is. One of my
no, it's like
favorite.
I have input on the M-rated game thing.
Oh, sweet. Well, I'm actually a huge fan of
God.
the Eternal Darkness.
Giant
I'm
spiders.
actually a huge.
Sorry.
I'm actually a huge fan of the Eternal Darkness games. And to this day, I'm still saddened at the fact that there is no sequel.
Is that the one where he has like two tentacles coming out of his back?
What?
I remember we talked about a game a long time ago, and the guy had like two eel-like things coming out of his back.
No, that's the Darkness.
Oh.
Eternal Darkness was a GameCube exclusive game, which took its inspirations from like Lovecraftian horror, but had more of a insanity Stephen King-esque kind of vibe to it. Don't quote me on that last bit. Anyway, so as the title says, Eternal Darkness is actually a Nintendo property, believe it or not. Yeah, the people behind Mario.
And though they deny it, they are also behind Conker.
Yes, even though technically Rare made it.
Well, he was on the 64.
Yeah.
So even though they deny it, they made Conker.
Well, actually, believe it or not, Eternal Darkness is an original IP to Nintendo. And this goes back to the old days of the GameCube. But further back than that, Silicon Knights, knights as in Roman knight, not knight as in darkness. Silicon Knights actually were making Eternal Darkness for the Nintendo 64. But due to hardware limitations and how poorly the graphics looked, they decided to go against it. Instead, they requested to have the game, change the game to a better system if one came, and sure enough, it did. Excuse me. Eternal Darkness was the subtitle Sanity's Requiem was then released at the during the what's it called? During the GameCube era, and it shows. However, what sets this game apart from other Nintendo GameCube games was it did so much experimental shit for the time. For example, in the game, there is something called the sanity meter. And how this works is the longer you're exposed, the more you fight these unholy monsters, like as soon as you go into a level and you see them, they'll actually sap away some of your sanity. And if your sanity gets too low, you don't die and you don't lose magic or health. Instead, your game itself starts freaking out.
Ooh.
So basically, if your sanity meter is low and you enter, suddenly your TV will go black, and at the top of the right-hand side of the screen, it would say like HDMI 1, as if the game was unplugged from those ports.
That's clever.
Or at another point, suddenly you would see a volume meter go all the way down, and you couldn't hear anything, or the game would suddenly go black, and you would hear monsters hitting your player character. And it would just get progressively more weirder. Like, there was even one where it would pretend to delete your game saves. Like, it would actually go into the menus and say, deleting all data. And you would actually see the data being deleted.
That is really clever.
Exactly. Of course, there are more traditional sanity effects in the game. For example, a character will suddenly lose their head, but they'll still be walking around without the head, and then the game will equip head, as soon as you pick it up. And when you pick it up, your head will actually start quoting Shakespeare. More specifically, Hamlet.
What the fuck?
It's a sanity effect. This is kind of a joke. And of course, there are more fucked up things, like the main protagonist seeing her own dead body in the bathtub covered in blood, or a hanging police officer she just spoke to suddenly his eyes opening and looking at her, that kind of thing. But here's the clever thing: most sanity effects were limited to one player character at any given time. So you wouldn't see sanity effects occur for the same person. At least in the same playthrough, I should say.
So it was always randomized and unique.
Exactly. Well, yeah, there were ones that could transfer over to other characters. Again, the fourth wall breaking ones. But there were more specific ones for specific characters. However, so the main plot of the game is as follows. There are 3 elder gods, which basically are imprisoned by one elder god in an ancient prison. These 3 then use their weird telepathy mind powers during the Roman era and convince a Roman general, a man called Augustus Pius, to come before them. He is the first man to touch something called the Tome of Eternal Darkness. Now, here's what makes the game clever and interesting. Every character is connected to one another not through ancestry, but because they've touched the tome. So whenever, at the start of every level, the player will go into a room and they'll find the Tome of Eternal Darkness somewhere. Maybe it's hidden amongst ruins or inside a library or something like that. The moment they touch it, they're transported to this weird dimension with these stone pedestals everywhere. And there will be an exact replica statue of them standing before them. The point is that they have been cataloged as an inheritor of the book. And what's interesting is that if they die and someone takes that book after them, doesn't need to be a direct descendant, can be anyone, then they will be cataloged and they can see the statue of the person that came before them. Personally, I find it very clever. Anyway, Pius is the first one to take it and is the only one actually given the option to destroy his statue. Again, it's up to the player if they want to decapitate the statue or destroy the arms, or do all 3. And basically and then his statue is just this lump of stone. What I find amazing is that every character will always comment on how badly damaged the statue is. Like some will say it's a Roman general, but he's lacking his arms. And others will say, oh, he doesn't have a head, I don't know who he is, that kind of thing. It's very simple or very subtle. I'm just going to, wrong chat. I'm going to put an image here. Hopefully this works. So it's up to the player to choose one of the 3 artifacts. Yes, this is Augustus being transformed.
All right, game will be somewhat paused so I can show this on screen.
Yeah, I'm also going to show his after form, like what happened to him when he touches the artifact. Again, hopefully this all works. Again, experimentation, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh.
So, like I said, it's up to the player to decide which artifact they want to take. There are 3 of them, each one to a specific god. All right?
Wait a minute.
What's up?
Second form looks eerily familiar.
Well, he is a decayed skeleton. Well, a zombie skeleton. What do you expect?
And he's Roman?
Yeah, he's Roman.
Oh.
Did you actually, believe it or not, but the helmet's mohawk actually caused a controversy. Because people were saying it's not scientifically accurate, historically accurate, because it's onto the side front. But it turned out it was the other way. So, Anyway, so Augustus takes the artifact and is then told by one of the 3 to make the world ready for their return. And of course, every character you play as is either directly or indirectly responsible for dealing with Augustus's plan. Now, unfortunately, about half the cast. By the way, there are 12 characters you play as, or you can play as. I want to say, hold on, let me think. 1, 2, 3. Only 4 of those characters have a happy end. Everybody else dies. And some of them are quite graphic and horrific, to be quite honest. Like some are either, it's all forms of horrible, and most of them are killed by Augustus. And you kind of get this sense of he's been doing this for so long, and he's such a powerful and potent rival. It's good, and I don't think many games have been able to accomplish this for eons now. You want to say something?
No, I'm listening.
Okay. Like I said, they're all very. It's all very unique, very powerful, and as you go through the game, you eventually. The main point is that you're collecting artifacts to summon an elder god to fight Augustus's elder god, and what actually, I'll let this image here kind of explain better than I can say in words about how this all works. Art is by an individual called Zachary Cobbs or Zach J. Coops.
Can you get a link before I put that on the stream?
Let me check real quick. Again, this image has been circulated for so long, I don't think the original source exists anymore. Let me see. Yeah, it just gives me the WordPress thing. There's no link to the original maker anymore.
All right.
But if you know who you are, let us know and link you.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this image basically describes how how the gods work and how each one is connected to the other. So red is strength, green is madness, blue is magic, and the middle is I don't know. So as you see how the hands move, might destroys madness, madness destroys magic, and magic destroys might.
Yep, it's perfect balance.
Exactly, but each of these gods, basically the plot of the center god Mantarok is he's tricking each of these gods to destroy one another while he is slowly dying on Earth. And each one of these gods believe so infallible, so powerful that they believe a vision that Mantarok sent them of an alternate reality in which they're victorious. Honestly, that's very clever. And the point, in fact, Mantarok, the centered god, actually is using the player characters to make sure his heart and his essence are protected from the other three, while he gets the player to collect the artifact and heart of the opposite god that the player picks. Again, pretty amazing.
Interesting.
This game also has a new game plus mechanic, in which unfortunately you have to play the game 3 times, which sucks. However, if you play the game again on New Game Plus, the first god you picked won't be available to pick again. You have to pick one of the other two. And the same thing will happen again. When you play throughout all three things, there's a bonus cutscene that's released which explains that all three gods had destroyed each other at just the exact moment that all three timelines collapsed in on themselves and basically making all their deaths into one event. So basically they killed all three of them killed each other and wound up being killed the same. And now, because of that, only Mantarok, the god that's been impaled and is slowly dying, is the last one left. He used the other three to destroy them so he could remain. And in an effect, we, the player, have helped an elder god succeed.
Yay.
Clever, isn't it? Yeah, the game is purposely ambiguous, because throughout the game, Mantarok is a blob of flesh, mouths, and teeth. Eyes and teeth. That's it. He's basically just a slime. He's weak, pathetic, and yet he's managed to convince humans to destroy his enemies without so much as influencing them. That is some smart shit right there.
Yeah.
I'll admit, a lot of the voice actors bring their A game to this game, and I mean like top shelf material. Actually, one of my favorites is a man called Maximilian Roivas, one of the ancestors to the main protagonist. Yes, they are called Roivas, which is, hang on, which is savior spelled backwards. I'm not
Wow.
joking. Mm-hmm.
So clever.
Well, to the untrained eye, yes, it is.
Ear. But yeah.
Oh no,
Mind it.
yeah, yeah. But Maximilian is my favorite because he owns the house which is in modern day, and this is like in 18 something, right? And yet he discovers this ancient city underneath his house, fights his way through so many of them, and yet hell, he even makes autopsies of many of the creatures, and when you push play on them, you can hear he speaks, and you can hear how audibly distressed the man is. Like every description of these monsters is amazingly written and dialogued. Like when he speaks of one of the zombie types, yes, there are different. I should also mention this. There are different types of enemies, but they're all recolored to be different. But they're also skinned differently as well. So some enemies will have like normal proportions, some will have like missing body parts, but like ethereal and so on and so forth. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So when he's describing one of the zombies, he says like these bloated cadavers, seek to end their pain by spreading it to others. And the way he says it, it sounds like a man who is just literally being driven to the edge of insanity. However, what I honestly adore is that in his chapter, they introduce a new creature called the hold on, let me look it up real quick. Uh, it's called like Bone something. Hold on. Bone Thief, that's it. And they are these little spindly creatures with scythes for hands, right? They kind of look like a dog crossed with a human, but with no skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, they're so frail and tiny that there's a purpose to them. They actually will slice into a human body and use it like a living puppet. Hence why it has scythe hands. And when Maximilian sees this, and he realizes that many of his servants are in fact bone thieves in disguise, so he goes about killing them all and killing the bone thieves inside. Unfortunately, he gets paranoid because he doesn't know who to trust anymore. So much to the point that he actually goes into his, I believe it's his children or his cousins or something, nephews, I'm not sure, and he kills them. And the whole thing is actually shown in game. It's quite graphic, it's quite disturbing. But at the same time, you can't help but feel sympathetic to the guy because these things do exist. And it's because of that he's arrested. And he's insane. Like he's jabbering on like a maniac, talking utter nonsense and madness. And unfortunately, as the player, he's telling the truth, but at the same time, you can't help, at the same time, you can't really do much because he does sound like a lunatic.
Yep.
So again, it's that saying that goes of, what's the word? It's that saying that goes, the day that the ramblings of madmen become logic is the day that the world truly ends. But like I said,
I don't think I've ever heard of that quote before, but I get what you're meaning.
It's an old one. Anyway, unfortunately, Eternal Nights it's a cult classic, and it's sold enough to get a sequel. But unfortunately, we're never going to get one, sadly enough. And this is because of two particular reasons. One, Silicon Knights, the company, is gone. It no longer exists due to creating some pretty bad games. Not because they didn't want to. It was mostly because, they were kind of like, actually no. They made some pretty bad games, mostly, and they were pretty bad because a lot of the developers did not want to make these games. They wanted to make a sequel to their best one, again, Eternal Nights. And unfortunately, this went. You can imagine they broke their contracts, people got pissed, and of course, the company went under. Nintendo kept the rights to Eternal Darkness, which means a sequel could exist in the future, but under a different publisher. But that's not where
I do see. I just did a quick Google search. There is like 2013. It's Eternal Darkness 2 gameplay.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's most. Oh, wait, does it say Eternal Darkness 2 or does it say Shadows of Eternal?
Shadows of Eternal.
That's not Eternal Darkness 2. Basically, I was getting to that. Shadows of Eternal was supposed to be the spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness. Again, due largely in part to the fact that they don't have the rights to Eternal Darkness, they couldn't call, this game Eternal Darkness 2, so they went with a different one. This game has been plagued with development hell, along with allegations about the director of the company being less than a savory human being, let's say. Hint, hint. Yeah, like I said, a lot of illegal stuff. The company faced troubles, litigations, again, accusations, but I don't think anything was proven. The company still exists, but and they did have a crowdfunding for the Shadows of Eternal game, which I believe succeeded. But I believe about 2 years ago, I want to say, nothing has come back from that since. And I believe there were several Twitter posts by them saying that the game is put on indefinite hold until further notice, things of that nature, and yeah, which is sad. Actually, let me go check. I'll check their YouTube page real quick, just to see if I'm being.
To like see developers like get really passionate about their game. They have like a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter, and then nothing happens.
Yeah. Okay. It's their Quantum Tunnel. That's the studio as it is now. Let me see. This game, the trailer for Shadows of Eternal, the gameplay one, I think you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check real quick. Hold on. Their YouTube page is just. It's
boy, the evil eye might actually spawn tonight. Too bad.
All right,
not
here we
on
go.
The surface.
So, Shadows of Eternal, the gameplay demo came out a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And their latest information in terms of Shadow of Eternal came out also a year ago. So, yeah. Like I said, it could be possible that they could, get back to making it. But most of the stuff they're putting out right now, basically, podcasts like what we do, Cthulhu war paintings, which are like little figurines, DSU computer design program kind of things, and that's about it. Again, it's very possible they could be working on it, but at the same time, I don't think they are. I'm not holding out hope anymore, unfortunately. So, like I said, if it continues again, if we can see Shadows of Eternal getting an official thing, I'll be happy. I'll be the first person to play that game and tell them congrats on making it to getting your game out there. if it sucks and if it's terrible, I will lambast them. I may, well, that's the thing. I may like them and I may respect them, but if their thing is crap, I am gonna tell them, I'm sorry.
You're gonna
It is
tear it
crap.
apart.
Yeah, I am a man of standards, plain and simple. I know it sucks. I know it's terrible, but it's the truth. Anyway, any closing thoughts?
I have nothing for this.
All right, then. I've rambled on for about an hour now. All right, then. So that was Eternal Darkness. And like I said, Nintendo's first and only rated M game, at least in an original IP. I'm sure there's more that came after. All right, then. On to our next. We've got 2 more, and then our 2 monthly things.
I'm gonna take a sip of coffee. Let's see. We got Console Wars. I kind of want to go with Gears of War.
All right, then.
Because I want to save like the long rant of Console Wars for the end.
All right. So, Gears of War. Oh boy, this is an interesting one.
Yep.
Where to begin?
So, like, for those of you who don't know what this game is about, you are on Earth. I'm just gonna go with what I've seen. I haven't seen everything because there's some.
Excuse me.
There's some games that the Let's Players I watch have skipped. But basically, you're on Earth, and I guess a new race of what are they, humans? Like mutated humans?
I know more about what the locusts are, so I could probably explain that better.
Yeah, well, basically you play as a soldier stuck in a very gruesome war with a subterranean race called the locusts. And
Yes.
dear gods,
Are
I'm
they
not
brutal?
joking when I say that it's gruesome, but it's also awesome.
So I'll go a bit more into depth with that myself. The locusts are, yes, they are mutated humans, but they were mutated. They were mutated by the world's fuel, which is emotion. The humans of that world decided to start experimenting on these people by putting them in camps, exposing them to the emotion, and seeing the results. Many of them died, others mutated, and a little girl who was born with the immunity but still retained some aspects was able to get everybody out. She let them underground, and from there they basically began to rebuild society. It is heavily hinted, though, that some species of locust, the Cantus and other more bestial-looking ones, existed before them, and it's heavily hinted that there was a true subterranean race at one point. All right, then. And that is your brief history on the locust.
Yeah. But like, if you've ever seen like cosplayers walking around with guns with chainsaws on them, that's where this game is where that came from.
Yep. And goddamn, are they amazing.
Like, personally, I enjoy watching Let's Plays of the game, even though the Berserkers kind of freak me out when they're first introduced.
I think they freak everybody out. That's only because
oh my god, like that entire sequence was so gruesome.
Yes.
I'm dying.
Actually,
I'm dying in game.
Actually, the HD re-release of Gears of War 1 redid that entire scene, and it's actually more grisly than what it was originally.
Yeah, I know. Every time it comes to that part, I have to I have to mute or at least look away from the game the video and then come back after it's done. Because it's horrifying.
Go ahead. And now it's like I can handle this shit.
I can't.
Point to Rev then. Anyway. So I guess we should go through the games, in order. That way we can, come to a consensus. So, Gears of War 1. This is an interesting one to me, as My exposures to the first Gears of War game was through my cousin Gabi. Gabi used to have all these. Well, he was a friend of my brother. Yes, he was a dude, or is a dude, and he had all these. He was about my age, maybe a little bit older than I was, but he had all these very adult and mature games all over the place. And my brother and I would sit down and we watch him go through the games pretty brutally. He also yes, and he and my brother were who would go and look up adult things on Newgrounds. Yeah, they were those kind of kids.
Oh, that's like my childhood.
Mhm.
Let me guess. This is the type of game that your mom would have a bitch fit over.
Oh, she would. Like if she went mental when I was playing, when we went to Walmart and I went to the game section back when they used to have those. Oh, those were the days.
They still
But I
have them,
would
but
go
it's not
there.
as fantastic.
Yeah, there's no consoles attached to it anymore, at
Mm.
least where I'm from. But I would go there and I would start playing Call of Duty games. And my mother threw such a bitch fit about it because she saw me shooting guys in the head and then immediately got on my case and it's like, Fabian, you're killing men. Don't do, and she actually thought I was doing digital murder. If I could go back in time and tell her how much of a stupid idiot she was, I would. Anyway, like I said, but I
Son of
remember
the
that.
year.
hmm Look, I am brutal to everyone.
Yep.
Family is not spared from this. Period. But I remember sitting down with watching my brother and Gabi having this hard time against one of the locust bosses, and it was the Corpser, the one you're supposed to push back into
Into
the
the
river of
emulsion. Yeah.
yeah, and they kept dying to it, and they could not get past it. Again, they were stupid kids. They didn't understand the concept of shoot the eyes and force it back. You know. Shoot between the gaps. So they kept having a hard time. And my brother, the oh so wonderful person that he was, whenever he would get frustrated with the game, he would always give me the controller. So I would suffer and he would feel better by extension.
Wow,
So
what a dick.
yeah. He if he feels bad, he always has to take it out on people. Even to this day, I think he still does it. But anyway, he gave me the controller and said, "Okay, you do it," and they were both pouty, very angry, but at the same time, I could tell they were hoping I would die, so I would get frustrated and they could seem like cool guys to me. So I sat down and I started playing, and they were doing this like 30 times over and dying every time. I sat down and in like 5 minutes I killed the thing. And they were beyond pissed with me. And I had why was that so hard? Like in a very innocent manner, like I was confused, like why were they having such a hard time with it? They got pissed, they snatched it out of my hands and they kept playing. And then about like a week or so later, I hear my brother is boasting about how he beat Gears of War 1 and had no trouble with the bosses. It's
Wow,
like,
what a dick.
yeah. But it's like I let him have that one. Anyway. So the story for Gears of War 1 is an interesting one. It is very it's gritty, but it also does its job well of establishing the world. Like early on, you start seeing how the locusts have taken over much of the city, how the old architecture is destroyed, like everything's being taken apart, buildings are abandoned. Actually, wait, now here's actually some art from the game. I could just probably show the people.
Like even though it is Earth, like you can see the architecture and design of everything is a lot different than what we know.
Yeah, it's more industrious.
I look at it and I start thinking of like the old Batman movies, like the 90s.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, funny you say that. I found a building that looks exactly like that. But still. Ah, God. But like I was saying, the game does show how the world has basically been attacked and destroyed by the locusts. You know, it's all being ruined, but you still see this shade of what's the word I'm looking for here?
You
The
see like
shade
memories of like what was there before.
exactly. You still see it, and it looks. You know, you get this feeling of this world has seen better days. But in a
Hmm.
bit of and what I love about world building is you meet the people still living in these cities. You know, you see the squatters and these. I don't know what they call them in game. It's like the Lost or something like that.
I don't remember.
They gave them a derogatory. Again, if anyone's watching the chat to let us know, that'd be great.
Oh, I haven't even been looking at chat. There's somebody in Twitch chat.
Oh,
Oh,
what did they say?
Blob will be back next week. Thank you, Blob.
Oh, okay. But like I was saying, the world is quite, all these people are they're squatters, they're sitting around, they're trying to eke out their lives, but at the same time, you find out that they don't like the cog,
People who
the
are
organization.
fighting the locusts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very obviously that they view, much like how the millennials of today view everyone as, you know, Nazis, monsters, and so on. This is exactly how they see the cog, who are actually trying to stop the locusts and trying to keep them alive. Grateful pricks.
Mm-hmm.
But, they basically are sitting in these large shanty towns. They're all watching around, trying to look out for each other, but also to basically cog to go fuck themselves. And it's up to one of your friends calling in a favor with one of them
I know that
to
part.
to basically get them to agree to help with you. And you do get the sense of he just did, he just pulled in something that he probably could have used himself. You can respect the man for that. But in the little bit of amazing show don't tell, there is a moment where the sun goes out and you start seeing and hearing these creatures in the night just flying around, and your first instinct is, oh, they're bats or something. But then you start seeing these horrible things everywhere, and then suddenly ahead of you, one of the groups who have all these lights out, suddenly it goes out. They're lost, they're confused, and without warning, you see this swarm of living things, this living cloud, fly in, and then suddenly they're just turned to meat.
They're just
They're ripped
turning.
to
They're turning
pieces.
into mist. Like when I saw that part, my first thought is like, oh no, it's Riddick.
But
Like
basically,
the first movie in that little series is what was it called?
pitch black.
Pitch Black. Yeah, it's like that, but they're tiny.
Exactly. And you're just sitting there like, oh shit. And then early on, you go from area to area where there's light. You're always running little harbors of easy, and it's perfect world building. And then you realize these things are called krill, and they're very small, they're very dangerous, and you're like, oh shit, I gotta go, I gotta move. And when you eventually get a car that has all these spotlights, you then become the hunter. You then fight against the krill and you burn them away.
But even still, they'll still come after you, even if you're in an armored car.
Exactly. It doesn't lose that edge of predatory terror, but at the same time, you're like, oh, I can get back at them. And it's great. It's amazing. Uh, Gears also has you going underground, seeing how the locusts live, and of course, what I really find interesting, that the whole point is that you're trying to drop a bomb that will take them out. The first time it doesn't work because you don't have the information. But then you have
Because they live in tunnel systems, and if we know anything about tunnels, it's not going to be a straight shot.
exactly. It's later revealed that they're just the entire underground is a honeycomb, and to map out one tunnel would take years.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, by some miracle, but actually, again, there's more foreshadowing where one of the characters who dies early on, Carmine, he's sitting up top with the rest of his, looking at an immersion hole. How the locusts get out, basically, they build these, they dig up in these giant holes and emerge like ants. And Carmine's looking at it, and there's this device. He looks at it and then chucks it into the hole like it's just garbage. But then one of the other much later in the game, one of the other characters picks up the same device, and then they reveal that the whole thing just mapped their underground. One little thing like that. So inadvertently, Carmine saved everyone. Go figure.
Wait, mate. I that's another thing I like about like Gears of War is that they do the red shirt gag.
Or the Wilhelm scream.
Mostly the red shirt gag, because every time you see a cog that's wearing a helmet, you know, oh, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
In fact, in every cutscene, if you have one with you, they're dead.
Yeah, and it's more true with the Carmines as well. 2 of them, to be specific.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that in a bit. But anyway, the game ends in the most classic battle ever, where you're boarding a train, speeding towards this volcano, and the point is you're going to use a missile system to blow up the underground and kill all the locusts inside. And it's this huge heart-pumping thing. You're like, oh my god, and then you face the big bad who's been following you the entire time.
And even that guy has been intimidating the entire game. Like, not once has he ever lost his edge, and that's amazing.
No, it's not only that. It's not only that, but he's constantly in the background. The first time you meet General, the leader of the locusts at the time, he murders your superior officer Kim. Murders the guy flat out. He's getting, I believe in the HD version, the remake, he's actually getting shot, and he's ignoring the bullets like they're nothing.
It's like
and he kills the guy.
It's like that scene from Con Air.
Exactly. He just does not give a fuck. Then later on, you actually, I'm gonna get an image of Rob just so people can see him, because we're hyping this guy up and we're not even showing.
Yeah, yeah.
The fuck is wrong with us? But then later on, as the cog, as Delta, the group you're a part of, is talking about using the map system to blow up the underground, below, just I want to say mere minutes ago, the locusts have captured a cog. They bring him before Rom, and instead of killing him right away, he's actually listening to their communication through the guy's helmet, and then shoots him.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't shoot him. I've watched this Let's Play so many times. He's listening to the communication, but once he's done, he just easily crushes the helmet like a soda can, then grabs the top of his head and twists it again like a bottle of soda. And this guy, you can tell this guy is really, really strong.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He is a freak of nature. Oh yeah, he does do that. I'm sorry, I was having mixed up with the original cutscene, which he just shoots the guy. My bad. But yeah, he is this intimidating monster. And then when you finally get to the train and you're about to board it and fight the guy, I mean, when you're finally about to shoot it, you have to fight him. He's on the train with you now. And not only is he there, he has, throughout the whole game, not only the krill as a living shield around him, he also has a turret, which he uses like a rifle. Like, these things are huge. Like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But the whole fight it's amazing. Not because you are fighting what is effectively the game's boogeyman, and you are taking a sledgehammer to his face.
This is like we're hyping this up and making it sound so monumental, but it really is, because for so long, when games have a creature like this, they hype it up to the point where you're not scared of it anymore.
Exactly.
But somehow Gears of War has done it so well, because every enemy you fight are big creatures, but this guy, who's in comparison is kind of average sized, he's the most intimidating thing ever.
Exactly.
And you dread the idea of fighting him.
And this is they do it cleverly because they show him very rarely. And every time he is on scene, he's done something horrible. Again, he kills Kim right in front of you when you first see him. He then later he kills the cog by twisting his head off, and and then and just walks away. And at the end, he doesn't even say anything to you. He just says, "Serve the queen," in this distorted voice, and fights you.
That's another thing. Until the end, he never talks. Ever.
Actually, you want to hear something hilarious?
Hmm.
General Rom was voiced by Ron Perlman.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, that's awesome!
Well, now we know how they modeled the... Oh! Okay, so now we can add... So, Ron Perlman, both Hellboy and General...
I am still very sad about things going on for Hellboy. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll get that to that in no time.
Some other day, yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, you fight him, and then finally when you beat him, like just shoot him to pieces, shoot him down, it's not like his head explodes or nothing like that. No, it's a slow-mo moment where you see the blood fly out, him flying, and his hand only connected by red veins in his arm. And that's it. He falls, he breaks his jaw on the impact, he is dead. It is an incredibly satisfying death. And you feel like, I've done this. I've earned this victory. And it feels great. And Gears does it. And this is the one thing I will say about Gears of War. It earns its cliffhanger ending because it's so well, the game is so well written, so well executed. And overall, it deserves it. And since it sold so well, we got a sequel to it.
And more sequels, and more sequels. And then we have a fourth one that also ended on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a moment. So let's move on to, well, I guess the sequel. Gears of War 2 takes what Gears of War 1 sets up and actually adds more story and more world build, and it feels appropriate. Again, the Locusts are now on the battlefield. Something has happened, and they're retreating. But at the same time, somehow they've managed to learn or gain the ability to sink entire cities. And like I said, we're talking about cities as big as New York, maybe bigger. So if they're sinking those with general ease, it's like, what the hell is going on? It's this big concern, and people are like, what is happening? There's fear in the soldiers. Everyone's exhausted. The fighting is getting to the point where no one can handle it anymore. They're tired, they're exhausted. Both sides are. Marcus and Dom, the characters from the first game, return, and you do see that slight exhaustion on their face, but they're still willing to keep fighting. Gears of War 2 basically begins with what is, I guess you could call it, their version of Normandy, I suppose. Or the Normandy landing, I suppose.
I guess.
Basically, the Gears' new plan is to use drilling and dig underground to fight the Locusts on their home territory. That's the goal of Gears of War 2. It's a sound plan, and personally, one that would have worked. I mean, we've already gone underground before, but this time we'll actually face them more directly. But the landing goes as well as you would expect.
Poorly.
No one exactly. Not only are the Gears, the convoys, which are, I think they're repurposed oil rigs. I think that's what they call they're now. The whole thing goes terribly. Not only are these rigs poorly maintained, poorly escorted, like we're talking maybe 3 tanks to each rig and maybe 2 helicopters, but the entire area is booby-trapped to hell by the Locust. Like, they have everything in place to stop this from happening. I'm not just talking about soldiers, I'm talking beasts. I'm talking the broommarks and other creatures. And it doesn't even have to be these huge beasts. They also reveal in this game they have living landmines.
Oh, goody.
They're called tickers. They get this name because when they chatter their teeth, it sounds like they're clicking. So the locusts do. Apparently, they breed fast too. So there's that. Immediately, these things take out several of these rigs, and right off the bat, you're like, "Well, shit." The invasion is over. Basically, there's only like 3 left. That's not enough for an entire army. The game also introduces a few new characters. You've got the conscript Dizzy, who, he's a father, but he's also the old, kind of like the cowboy trucker.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. Bit of a, not even a prick, just he's pretty good. And you've got this, and you've got the spiritualist Ty, a guy covered head to toe in tattoos and thick body armor. What the game establishes him in the hospital scene where he's meditating, but it also shows a sadistic side where when the hospital's under attack, it turns on the red lights for emergency. And when he sees all the dead locusts, he actually says like, "Locust blood looks good in this light." And there's a line where I believe it's Don that says, "Yeah, that's creepy, man." Like as if to say, just don't do that again. And hell, the game even goes so far as to show that his rig explodes, and yet he kicks his way out of the whole wreckage like it was nothing. It establishes he's effectively unkillable. Yes, the landing goes poorly, and a new locust general, General Scourge, this time around.
Oh boy.
Scourge is peculiar, to say the least. First off, I'm going to say right now, he is a downgrade from General. And, well, he's small. Well, let me rephrase that. He's small in terms of Ram's original.
Yeah.
All right. But he's still pretty, taller than a normal human being. Scourge is, according to the wikis and things like that, he's apparently he's
apparently a what?
He's an arch priest of the Cantus, which is a species of locust within the hierarchy. When Ram died, the queen saw his strength and promoted him to general because he could command a large creature, which I'll get into in a second. Scourge, is quite different. Large jaws, dreadlocks, which actually they're not hair. It's part of his helmet. And as most people will see once the image goes up, he has twin chainsaws on a staff.
Give me a second. I'm getting it set up.
Does anybody else feel, get a Darth Maul vibe off of this guy? Or is it just me?
It's not up yet.
Oh, no, I was joking mostly.
By the way, we messed up. It's not on Earth.
Oh, yeah. They call it like Sarah or Cirrus or something.
Sarah, yeah.
Hold on. Sorry about that.
It's now up. There you go.
All right. So, like I said, Scourge has the whole double chainsaw thing, and you see this, and your immediate thought is, okay, so Darth Maul got a redesign.
He's gonna attack us with his dick.
He's gonna exactly. He's going to throw away the staff and hit us with his dick.
Well, that's what it looks like in this image.
Yeah, like I said, it was the best one I could find. Anyway, but Scourge proves his strength by sawing a tank in half with one of those saws. He then fights Dizzy and Ty and go underground. The underground segment is pretty. It's interesting, but there's very little in terms of like underground fauna and much else. In fact, the very beginning is mostly like wooden uh wooden buildings, scaffolding, and maybe some marble columns, and that's about it. Eventually, you assemble the original team back together, Delta at full strength. You got uh, Marcus, Dom,
Cool.
Cole, and
Yay, Coltrane.
the Cole train and Baird. Yeah, we didn't need Baird, but yeah. It's in his contract, so we had to.
Yeah. Wait, is he the one that
So,
complains about literally everything?
yeah, he's the one.
Why'd they bring him back?
It's like but like I said,
Like you were talking about the people that were hiding out in the cities. All I can think of is Bear was constantly complaining about their food, giving him diseases.
exactly. Or better yet, when he was bitching about how everyone was giving Cole the center of attention, he was just annoyed by it. Anyway, so as the team is established once again, everyone's trying to find everybody else who still fought against, who was still on the surface. And very early on, they get on board these large vehicles or these large animals called barges or prison transports. These massive, almost upside down spiders with these metal cages at the bottom. And early on, Baird explained. By the way, they find Baird beside a metal sarcophagus, and it's revealed that the locusts this time are capturing prisoners for some reason. He then also explains that they're doing things to people, breaking them inside the cells. And then immediately, once you get inside one of these barges, you find Ty. And he has been through hell. I'm not going to show this because it's pretty graphic.
No, thank you.
It's terrible. It's horrible. The man is broken. And the second Marcus offers him a gun, he kills himself. Whatever they did, they broke the unbreakable. And in that second, you immediately get this sense of, oh God, this is more serious. You get this feeling of dread, terror, and horror. And you start realizing, like, if someone like Ty, who is established early on as being this unbreakable man, what hope do anybody else have? And it also gives you a good sense of how messed up everything is too.
Yeah.
And of course, the underground segment is a city falling down because apparently the locusts are now
using what?
A gigantic worm to eat around the cities, so they fall.
Tremors, anybody? Or Dune?
It's like I couldn't make the ship up even if I tried. I really couldn't.
It's basically Dune.
Yeah. And it turns out that Scourge is controlling the creature, using his own reaver, these flying lizard bugs. He shouts at it and commands it to keep fighting. Somehow he's gotten control over it. And actually, if you read into the extended game, like deciphered locust glyphs and everything, they actually say that they view Scourge as a messiah figure because he can command what is called the Riftworm. Crazy, isn't it?
Wow.
Eventually, you and the others, you decide to regroup back with HQ, and while this is happening, the worm catches up to you guys, and indeed, you are inside the body of the worm. And unfortunately, Carmine dies, attacked by the white blood cells.
Oh boy.
It is tragic. It is sad. He was young, and he was getting into his stride of being a badass. I felt terrible. I actually felt emotion for basically what was a faceless man. It made me cry.
Literally, Carmine number 682.
No, well, actually, here's the crazy thing. There are, like I said, there are 3 Carmine brothers. They all have names. And, it actually humanizes them. But immediately after, you get revenge on the... in by far one of my favorite scenes in the entire game. you basically rip the worm's hearts out.
That sounds like a different game.
No, basically, you use your chainsaws to just slice the heart at the arteries. The worm literally drowns in its own blood. And then you're about to be drowned in the blood too. And it's just like, yes, so much blood, so much joy. Even
For those of you at home, you must understand Rev has a hard on for gore.
Woo! True sea of blood. True sea of blood.
I almost want to say you would enjoy Sea of Thieves, but then again, that's just a spooky mechanic to keep people from leaving the map.
Oh, we have someone in the chat. I just noticed this.
Which
Lazarus,
oh,
YouTube. Lazarus Justice, Random Talk. Hello, can you hear, see me? Yes,
yeah,
we
sorry,
can.
I am not paying attention to chat because I am playing a game, but I'm still focusing on talking.
Yes, I was just getting information as well. I don't actually look at the chat. I'm mostly looking up for information and images.
Yep. Like I can talk for the show and I can play a game, but I can't focus on the chat at the exact same time.
So sorry if you were asking early on, or have been waiting for a while. Very sorry about that. Anyway, it's an amazing scene, and even when the others fight their way out, like literally cut open the worm's side and get out, they're caked in blood. And the one thing I loved from Baird said, "This is wrong. I'm coughing up blood that isn't even mine." The one time I actually enjoyed Bear's conversation. Anyway, so the worm dies, and then you guys basically go to a facility, figure out where the what's it called? Figure out more information about the locusts, and then make a horrible discovery. The locusts are not. There's a big city in the game called Jacinto, which is surrounded by a large ocean. It's the one place that the locusts can't dig through because of that. But then they soon realize that the locusts are punching holes around Jacinto. Clever bastards.
You cut out there. They're what?
What did I cut out?
They're digging holes around Jacinto for what?
To sink it.
Oh.
It's a very clever little trick. It's like how do you sink a city that's in the water? Well, you dig around it and let all that water pressure get to it. It then becomes a plan to. They then discovered that if Jacinto sinks, the ocean would destroy the hollow, basically the locust underground. So a plan is then hatched. The Cog have to sink their last living, their last city, to drown all the locusts in seawater. The only way to end the war. But the locusts are also planning to do the same thing to prevent the Cog from wiping them out. So it's literally a race for genocide. That's crazy. Eventually, you do this, and you also do the Locust Queen. And you would think that she's this gross, disgusting worm thing. She's not. She's actually human with a weird living dress. Again,
that was
I
the part
can't make
that was always weird to me.
Well, when you find out more about the locusts, this makes some amount of sense. Still weird though.
Mm-hmm.
You then fight your way out. You kill Scourge on his Reaver, but this is the one thing that I think drops the ball. I mean, yeah, you do have a boss fight with him, in which you destroy his chainsaws. You know, you literally cut his staff in half, and then you what's the word? You cut the staff in half, and then destroy his now chain swords. But unfortunately, he just kind of what's the word? He just makes it. He escapes, and then he uses his Reaver. You then fight him on the backs of other Reavers, and you kill him. Except, well, actually, what's the word? The beast explodes, because why not? And then he falls to his death. Huh.
Anticlimactic.
It was anticlimactic because the fall kill him. Like he literally hits the ground, bucks up as if he's gulping the last bit of air, and then just dies. There's no splatter. There's no pieces. It's just. I was incredibly disappointed, like beyond words.
I can imagine.
It's like it's like why do you let me? Why do you give us such an amazing death with Scorch is like why? Anyway, you do sink the city, and the story ends on a. Oh, by the way, you also discovered that the reason the locusts want to
What?
There's a reason why the locusts want to sink the city, and that's because, as it turns out, there is an infection where locusts are killing locusts, and it's your first hint that the what's it called? The emulsion is actually some sort of living parasite, and it has been affecting the locust. Again, little foreshadowing. Eventually, the locust are, you do this, but the future is also ambiguous at the time. Then enter Gears of War 3. The world went to shit. All right, moving on. No. That's the basic sum, but there's a bit more. It turns out that the world, because the last city was sunk, the Cog are basically homeless. They're still fighting the locusts, but at the same time, it didn't wipe out the land bit. Instead, the land bit basically spread upon the surface and became this gigantic, horrible sickness. It's like if any of you have actually remember fighting the infested in Warframe, they look almost like that, where a lot of these creatures have these weird tentacles, their bodies are just morphed in unnatural ways. Eventually, eventually, Marcus discovers his father, a scientist, is still alive and might have a cure to stop the lambent. It then becomes a race to get to your father at the other side of the world. Again, since we've been rambling a bit, I won't go into full details about Gears of War 3. Not because I hate this. It's not because I hate the game, it's because we're rambling now.
Yeah. And we thought having a third person would be bad.
Yeah,
No,
again, I blame myself.
Just summarize it short, dude. And then we'll summarize the fourth game.
Oh, there's not.
We are adding in the fourth game because it is still fucking Gears of War. So please summarize 3. I'm not gonna argue.
Right. No, I wasn't arguing against it. 4. That's what I meant to say.
I didn't hear any of that.
I said no. I agree. We should add 4. I was just saying. What I was saying there was, oh, do I have some things to say about 4?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, basically, in synopsis, the Gears end the infection of the lambent at the cost of all the locusts. Basically, because the locusts eat so much emotion, the cure killed them as well. And basically, this is where the story ended, where it was supposed to end. But Microsoft's like, no, we need money. We need to profit off of Gears of War a bit longer. Enter Gears of War 4.
Which, in its own right, it's not that bad.
I have no problem with Gears of War's concept. I got no problem with that. What I do have problems with is the new generation and the robots.
Well, it's as you said, the cogs were tired and exhausted.
Exactly, and I'm okay with them retiring, and I'm okay with the idea of a new generation of cogs coming up. But these kids are shit. Like they're terrible. Never before have I wanted to punch someone so badly. I honestly can't sit down and enjoy the game. I can't shut my brain off because these kids are stupidness. They're saying so much wrong, and I'm getting angry about them. I mean, they treat everything like a joke, and they just say so much stupid crap, and I'm just like.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but when you're faced with like hard things, the best thing you can do is to crack a joke.
Oh yeah, there's nothing
Why do you
wrong.
think there are so many videos of Marines on the battlefield goofing off?
Oh, no. I'm okay. I'm okay with comedy, and I understand that not every, especially in the downtime, they need to be, they need to relax. They're still human. I've got no problem with that. My problem is that during combat situations, they're still goofing off. They're still doing the stupid shit instead of staying focused. Like, perfect example of this is when they have Marcus come back, because yeah, they bring Marcus back. It's like, let the poor man retire, for God's sakes. Stop this. Stop this now. He's old and tired and grumpy.
Well, he was grumpy even before he was old and tired.
Exactly. Let him still let him continue his legacy of being grumpy. Like, I'm honestly disappointed they didn't have him actually sitting on the porch with a scowl. I'm a little disappointed with that. I would have laughed so hard. No, but like I said, there's a moment when Marcus in the group, and then when he says, area clear, to symbol that they're all fine, one of them says, we should probably stop saying that because there's been just so much bad shit happening every time we say it. And then it gets so they keep talking about it and talking about this nonsense that it just pisses Marcus off, and just he snaps at them and says, if the area is clear, it's fucking clear. Now focus. And in that entire thing, I couldn't help but think, you know what? He's right. You guys really do need to focus more. And that's the one thing I just that irks me about these kids. It's just they cannot focus on an actual situation. And I'm led to believe that Marcus's son was in the cog before this and was actually trained when he acts like a goddamn rookie. And actually does. Yeah, go ahead.
You can be trained to be like a god. You can be trained to rule the world, to kill people with a flick of the wrist. Goofing off is not bad. It's just how they work. Like you look at how me and Bill talk and how we interact. We goof off so freaking much. But in the general sense, we are still very focused.
Yes.
These guys are goofing off, but they are still very much focused. You're just being a grumpy piece of shit.
Oh, I admit this. I am a grumpy old piece of shit. I've never joked and said I'm always mad. That's my secret. No, I'm stop it.
Yeah,
No,
that
like
meme is dead.
That meme is dead. We killed this with a shovel. But no, like I said, I cannot enjoy these kids. I really cannot. And it says a lot when my favorite characters are actually the one. Actually, no. Let me. I'm gonna say I didn't hate the goofing off as much when Uncle was around. Because he goofed off, yeah, but he was serious but he got serious when he had to. That was fine with me. I was like, yeah, Uncle. And I was honestly scared that he got hurt or killed. But then at the very end, when he's okay, he's ripping his beast. I'm like, yay, he's alive. I even threw up my arms and everything. It's like, yeah.
Yay.
And the other thing I don't like about the 4 is the robots. I don't like.
Yeah, that was a weird take.
It's not just weird. It's tonally jarring.
Mm-hmm.
Because okay, I get it. It's been like what 20 years since Gears of War 3, give or take.
Yep.
I get and understand that they would have built robots.
I mean, that's what they're trying to do in modern day.
True, but these robots feel like they're too perfect as it doesn't feel like they. It feels like they're brand new off the assembly line and ready to go. There's not like any sign of, you know, there's no weathering. There's no like these things have been constantly being used. No, it's weird. I didn't mind the giant robots because it made sense because we did have a smaller one in 3.
I think the reason they're off the assembly line feels because they've not been used for war yet. Like the locusts are gone. There's no war.
True. I suppose that's right. Still, I still have this weird mixed feeling, and I don't know how to feel very much. It's like if a 5th one is made, I'd be okay with more robots in battle because why the fuck not? But that's just me. I'm still the old fuck. I'm the traditionalist. No, but the one thing I think the one other thing that irks me a bit about the game is it's not the hive. I don't mind the hive. It's the reintroduction of the locust that bugs me.
Mm-hmm.
The hive, I'm okay with. It makes sense that if you wipe out a parasite which takes control of its host and mutates it, it makes sense that a creature that could adapt to such a thing suddenly growing out of control and popping up from the ground. That's fine. I'm okay with that. It makes sense. I just felt like the locusts being reintroduced as these weird crystalline giant monsters is just kind of like, okay, we're reaching now. We're reaching really bad. Ugh. It's just weird. It's just so weird. I will say this. I want to see where they go with the series next. If a 5th Gears of War comes out, I think it's a safe bet we know will. I want to see where this goes. Because I'm interested. But at the same time, I'm like, just make it end. For God's sakes, just make it end.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts, input?
Gears of War 4 was my favorite.
Really?
Yep.
Is it because of Delirious playing it?
Next topic, please.
I have no comment. I'll admit this. I do playing of it. I loved how he said it's like Uncle. It's like what? Delirious. How English you? Anyway. All right. So that's Gears of War. Our topic we've kind of rambled on because
Gallows humor. That's it. Thank you, Bill.
Oh, he's watching. Yes, Gallows humor.
Yeah. He is wondering if he should join in for the Pokemon bit.
Sure, he can join in. All right. Guess
Weird.
we'll move on to the. What?
We'll move on topics, but you think we could take like a quick break?
Yeah, sure. Hopefully, we can keep it 5 minutes and not 10, like last time.
Last time is because we kept having technical issues.
Yeah, that was the joke.
I know.
All right. Okay, folks, we will be back in about 10 minutes, give or take.
5 or 10, yeah. We're gonna play the music, and if you get tired of it, then just mute it or something. I don't care. I designed it to be repetitive. And we're gonna stretch. We're gonna
get water, things like that.
Get something to eat. Get something to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys soon.
All right.
That is the wrong button. I am getting it. Don't worry. There it is. Okay. 5-10 minute break or so. We'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, that's enough of that. Don't know if it's been 5 or 10 minutes or not. Don't really care. I am back from the break. Rev hasn't shown up yet. Bill is ready to join us for the Pokemon of the month, and this time we're going to try and be a little bit more professional about it. Well, just as I say that, Rev is now online, and he's back. Okay. Let's see, what do we got next? Now I just gotta wait for everybody to get here. Oh, we got 4 people watching on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Oh. That is so weird. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
All right, ladies. We still going?
Yeah, I just started up. Yep, we're back. We're back.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So we've covered all the topics. Our last 2 of the evening are the console war, the mobile suit of the month, and HH's generation Pokemon of the month.
And the Pokemon of the month, yeah. I guess we're just going to go right into console wars before the monthly thing.
And yeah, insert the raging fanboys here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then, let's begin. So, for those of you who grew up around, gaming systems and so on, the term console war is gonna hold some bearing to you. Way back. Hold on, we got a third person.
It's Bill. It's Bill. So, okay. Carry on.
The console war stretches back to several years in our history. Way back in the days when Nintendo used to make older game systems. Even further than that, in a sense. However, unlike most of the console wars we have this day, which is the Xbox versus the PC, PS3 and the PC, back then it was actually between 2 rival companies. That was Sega and Nintendo. In fact, the rivalry goes back so far that it predates the consoles in a sense. The console wars truly picked up at around when picked up around when I want to say the console war truly started at around when Nintendo had Mario and Sega had Sonic. Back then, it was a competition between Nintendo's. What was that at the time? The N64, or was it the console that came out before the N64?
Like the early years when there was a Sega Genesis.
Oh yeah.
The Sega Genesis and the NES/SNES. That was the era.
Exactly.
NES and the SNES are 2 separate consoles, just for the clarification.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you, Bill.
I have them both. I should know.
Yes, but that's my point. The console wars truly began with these 2 systems, and back then the Sega, what was it? Not Dreamcast.
Sega Genesis.
The Sega Genesis. Hold on, I haven't seen these things in so long. I'm blanking out.
Oh, I literally just saw the Sega Genesis like 2 weeks ago. The Sega Genesis.
I still have it downstairs. I can remember it in my head as plain as day.
Like basically, like the Sega Genesis looks design-wise sort of like the N64, but it's like solid black, and the cartridges just sit out on the front, on the top.
Exactly, and it was a top loader, just like the SNES or
Yep.
Now, during this time of the console wars, a lot of these kart games started coming out, with Nintendo and Sega producing different kind of carts for different kinds of games. However, where Sega was content to rehash many of the older games, constantly releasing a different Sonic game with a slight touch of paint, in the case of Sonic 1, then Sonic 2, and Sonic and Knuckles, Nintendo was more along the lines of pushing the border and trying to do things a bit more creative, at least in a sense. Cue in the Star Fox games and many of the earlier Nintendo games of the time. While the while the Sega Genesis could produce more interesting games, Nintendo produced more plot heavy but equally interesting games, such as Metroid, Star Fox, and of course Mario. In the end, the console war kind of boiled down to when things started to go 3D, that's when the war really and truly picked up. At this point, sprite work was all but becoming a dying art, and we kind of focused more on 3D graphics and things of that nature. It then became a war between the Sega Dreamcast and the N64.
Actually, they had the Sega Saturn before the Dreamcast.
Sorry, the Sega Saturn and versus the N64.
Yeah.
And good lord, were those strange times.
Gotta admit, the Sega Saturn had a lot of pull, had a lot of stuff working for it, but they had so little in the way of playing that it fell real short.
Exactly. And it was basically a sinking ship, whereas the N64 truly took advantage of 3D graphics.
One of the other bonuses in this N64, sorry to interrupt, one of the other things that 64 made great use of was being affordable and cost effective, that people could buy it. And they put out games that were affordable that almost anyone could get and enjoy playing. Whereas the Sega Saturn was, good God, how many hundreds at the time. And I was in kindergarten or like first grade when this happened. So it's like I was watching it happen from the kid's perspective. It was like, the numbers at the time were just beyond comprehension.
And it wasn't just that, but at this point, Nintendo had basically created a winning formula. And when the Saturn evolved into the Dreamcast, well, it was basically the end of the console at that point. At this point, they were oh god, what's the word? They were leaning heavily on Sonic to try and save the system. But again, like I said, they were doing more experimental things, which resulted in the Dreamcast becoming less and less interesting and eventually fade out into obscurity. While the N64 continued to see newer and newer game libraries coming through. It doesn't help as well that the Saturn also hosted a lot of very creepy horror games of the time. Or sorry,
they
Dreamcast.
had some of the best ones too.
Yeah, Deep Fear and many of the older games were on the on the Dreamcast.
Yep.
But of course, because of that also led to a lot of parents avoiding the system as they saw it as a more mature gaming system. And
by
they
the way,
drifted
all
more
four
to...
consoles that we've talked about is on the screen.
Oh, good.
And I'm looking at my childhood right now.
I know. I'm looking at the Genesis, just like, oh, I want to play Sonic.
I would miss that.
Sonic.
Yeah, but I had the NES, not the SNES, so I had that old brick.
I had them both.
Oh my god, I found something cool. Carry on. We're not gonna lose track like we usually do. Just carry on.
Yeah. Should also mention this as well.
We gotta figure out a way to be able to lose track some other time. Sorry. Go ahead. Don't mind me.
Don't worry. Not only that, but the Dreamcast also had one major problem they never fixed, and that was the thing was prone to overheating like a motherfucker.
It also crashed a whole lot.
Have you ever heard when a Dreamcast starts revving up and heating up, it sounds like the thing's going to explode any second?
It sounds like the screams of the damned overheating in an oven. And I know this for a fact because I've had it happen once.
Exactly. And it just really wound up costing again, a lot of less tech-savvy people were scared beyond belief. And so, of course, they basically assumed that their investment would result in a destruction. so they avoided it. However, I should also mention this as well. During this time period, a third console was introduced into the system, the PlayStation. And the war that one, and of course, the war that was once fought between two factions split into three.
Yep.
And the PlayStation just, oof, boy, did they pick up and run with it.
Oh yeah, that thing exploded into popularity.
Starting with Crash and then just gone.
Exactly.
It went up from there.
Exactly. And not only did it explode onto the scene, but it also basically it was basically a better, more affordable for the time Dreamcast. And this was the death knell for the Dreamcast. Sega eventually gave. Go ahead.
No, carry on. I'll say it when you're done.
Not only did this basically end the Dreamcast run, but Sega basically said, okay, we're finished. And they started making games for the systems. Much later, the rivalry between Sega and Nintendo would continue, but wasn't so serious. It was more jovial at this point. But the true war. Go ahead.
Now I'm gonna say my thing. The thing about with PlayStation, the first one, they did something that the previous consoles didn't do until the PlayStation 2 came out. They grasped an avatar. They grasped a logo for themselves. Like Sega had Sonic, Nintendo has Super Mario Brothers and Zelda. PlayStation did not have something like that until the PS2. And we keep saying Crash, but that wasn't 100% until the PS2 era. Because by the time the PS2 came out, we had Spyro, we had Crash Bandicoot, we had Sly Cooper, we had Croc, yeah, that one, I don't remember that one very well. And unfortunately, we also had NBA, we had NFL.
All the sports games, of course.
We also had Twisted Metal. That was another one.
Yes, I remember that one.
Exactly. And this is the thing about the console war, the console wars, and what made the PlayStation so popular. While and actually, we could even say that about the Nintendo's run as well. Not only did the console, one of the major reasons as well why Nintendo beat Sega so long ago was because, much like the PlayStation, it had taken multiple different quote unquote mascots for the time. It was a wide selection too, where Sega basically had what at the time? Sonic, Knights, and the Starman.
There was a couple others Sega had, but they were not necessarily as well known unless you were a huge fan of their brand.
Exactly.
Sega,
because they did have like Earthworm Jim. I remember that one.
Sega, for the most part, had mini games, just little games you could play. Like I remember playing Tetris.
Mm-hmm.
I had that on the NES, but yeah, pretty much.
I had Duck Hunt on the NES.
Stuff. They had all the old small games and transferred it to Sega Genesis to try and keep themselves going, basically.
Nowadays, when it comes to so-called console wars, it's a lot less we're competing for money. It's more we're competing to see what big title will be released on us first.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're trying to push for like who can do the better image or the better story or so on and so forth. Now they're actually trying to push the boundaries of the creation of what they can do.
No, it's not even that. It's also, it's not just that. It's also, here are our various different gimmicks. Let's see what sticks instead of making quality games anymore.
Mm-hmm.
True. At one point, it was more about the quality and the creation, but that fell away within the last couple of years. So
Nintendo is still able to cling to that, though. So good on them.
True.
Yeah,
but not by much.
Very true.
But not by much.
Yes.
They're on their last grip. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the other thing as well. See, at the time, like I was saying, the console war between the Xbox and the PlayStation 3 really kicked off much later in the years. Unfortunately, both sides were pretty much neck and neck in creating their own. They're not even a copy in the sense of like Mario versus Sonic. No, it became creating an avatar and then filling that avatar with a game. The perfect example being where the Xbox 360 had Gears of War as their big shooter. The PlayStation 3 created Resistance to be their big shooter, but that didn't go over too well, so they created Killzone, and that also didn't go over too well. So you see the problem there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gotta admit, PlayStation really didn't do much in terms of the first-person type of a shooter setup. At least as far as I've played them.
PlayStation does better with like over-the-shoulder third-person shooters.
Yeah, like Metal Gear, for example. They did a lot better with that kind of a dynamic.
And obviously,
Exactly.
Resident Evil.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the entire control schematic was a hugely greater improvement for those kind of games. Whereas with like 360 or even Xbox One now, you play something like Halo or Call of Duty or Gears of War, and the layout for the controls are so intuitive for a shooter that it's right there.
Exactly. And unfortunately, like I was saying before, it then what wound up happening is that, well, actually, like I said, the console war has been going on for a while, but nowadays things haven't gotten any better. It's gotten worse.
Yeah.
Now people are taking the war aspect of the console war into a very serious and very literal side, resulting in some rather hilarious, if albeit sad, state of affairs.
And that's being nice about it.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
There is, I believe there is someone out there, a YouTuber, I think, who a lot of people describe as a quote unquote um, Microsoft cheerleader. The guy will constantly praise and shout and etc. about Microsoft's latest game or idea or IP or blah 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 from the heavens without
I
any
wouldn't be
prior
surprised if there's more than one.
Well, this guy is infamous for it because he's a complete and total fool about it.
And for reasons we are not going to talk about, we're not going to say his name.
Exactly, that's why I'm avoiding it. But if people know who he is, you know what I'm talking about.
And we'll leave it at that.
Yes, and actually, I don't know if this is true or not. Again, this could just be a rumor, but apparently, the head of Microsoft hates the guy. Irony, I suppose. I guess he has to wake up every morning looking at himself and saying, "He hates me, but I'm going to go out there and cheer them on."
I'm trying not to laugh.
Yes. So, as you can imagine, these wars have just gotten so intense and insane, leading to the point where people are basically arguing and fighting with each other over the most mundane and pathetic things out there.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, and to be quite honest, as I'm not biased towards one side or the other, but I will say this. The PlayStation 3, or Sony at the very least, has been trying very hard to what's the word? They've been trying very hard to keep to keep their fan base going, because they're always, they're trying to be as consumer friendly as possible, and it works. But let us never forget the e the games conference in which Microsoft stepped out into the public and publicly shot themselves in the foot. You know what I'm talking about.
I have a vague memory of which one that is, but I'm not going to say anything. I will ask you in chat instead, off without audio.
Yeah, I'll just say it. It was the conference or the EA conference. I can't remember what it was called, but it was the conference in which Microsoft's head came out, or one of their heads came out and said, the Xbox One will constantly be on. You can't play without a constant internet connection serviced by us. You can't rent. We're basically going to charge you for games you already own, blah, blah, blah. And you always have to use the Kinect. That's basically
that
was the one
argument.
I thought you were going at. Yeah.
Hold on. But which one? I can't see. Which chat did you put this in? Bill, what did you do?
I didn't say anything. I didn't type anything.
Oh, I thought you did.
I was going to, but then you went out and said it, so.
Oh, okay, my mistake. The point still stands, though. This conference basically destroyed Xbox's reputation with the people, and ever since, I would say, they have been clamoring to come back on the pole. I don't think it would be too hard to say that in terms of the console wars between Xbox and PlayStation, PlayStation is now ahead of them by far.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily say by far, but they're definitely leading the pack by a good.
That's what I meant to say. My mistake.
By a good
They're leading
margin.
the pack.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I definitely gotta admit, from my own perspective on that little conference deal, is like, why would you ever even consider those options? Because that just killed it for me, and I'm a fan of Xbox 360 over PlayStation. So
Exactly. And then, of course, after all that, you've also got the third entry to the console war, and that is the PCs.
which has become more of a contender in more recent time with the improvements of Steam and other similar sites.
Good old
Exactly.
games,
And
stuff like that.
Yep.
yeah, but unfortunately, it's also led to the constant elitism of the PC gamers.
That
which
is the
unfortunate.
issue with being a PC gamer.
Yeah.
There are a lot of PC gamers, console gamers that are really good about it. Like they're very nice about it, but they are so drowned out by the jerks and assholes that think that they're above everybody else.
Exactly.
And that's the one thing of why I really hate PC gaming in general, because you have a lot of that back and forth. It's like, I'm just trying to understand what mouse to use for my game or what process driver. Why do I need to get in the middle of this?
Exactly. It is this constant infighting, and superiority complex within the PC gaming industry that has led to these horrible people believing they're so much better, because in the most technical sense, they are able to to improve an existing game and make it better than it was before, through the use of PC settings, mods, and so on.
Right. And you have a lot of content creators out there amongst how many different PC users in general as well.
Exactly.
Not very many.
No, and you know what the hilarious thing about it was? Way, way back in the day, we can even chart back the PC, those who claim to be PC elites, way back to the old days of Crisis 1. Remember the old meme, but can it run Crisis?
True, very true. Because Crisis at that time had so many requirements just to run the beginning intros and everything.
Exactly.
You really had to be tech savvy on all your details.
Exactly. And it just... Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking, like, this entire talk about, like, the NES, the SNES, N64, stuff like that. I'm thinking of something that's technically not related, but at the same time kind of is, because you're also talking about tech savvy. Like, do any of us remember when our old game console from that era would stop working?
Yep.
I'm just remembering that, Bill, I think you might know what clip I'm talking about here, but you can't, like, back then you couldn't call somebody to get help with it. You had to perform surgery on your own console. That was the best.
I gotta say, for my own personal little anecdote here, I was lucky that never happened with any of the game consoles I had. We had to do that for the stupid VCR more often than the game console, so I was lucky on that one.
I'm lucky to have a dad who's an engineer, who is pretty much a genius, and he can fix all the consoles. He can even fix, like, the newer stuff, and he can fix the PCs. But I'm kind of going back on a topic here. What really, really threw the PC into the console wars was Half-Life.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the one that threw them into the spotlight. It wasn't like a early 2000s. It was like late 90s, mid 90s, somewhere around there.
I think like 95, 96, something like that.
Yeah. That they entered the spotlight. And sure, you had like a whole bunch of these little kiddie games on the PC, but Half-Life is the one that really stepped it up. And it's talking about like content creators when it comes to the PC, there's not that many. There's really not. Like, when you take a step back, what are your options for first-person shooters? Well, there's Valve. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any others? Can't
I
think of
think we got
anything
some in the
others.
back room. Let's go check. Oy. Oh, I just double checked. Half-Life was 1998, November 19th.
Okay.
Exactly.
Just
And this is the thing about it all too. It was not only that, but at the time, I want to say before Half-Life even came out, PC gaming did pretty much look like what's it called? It was basically considered the oh my god, the basement dwelling nerdist hobby, and back then nobody thought it was something they could profit off or make popular.
Yeah, it's
Now
about the
look at
same
it.
as like Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering.
that is a monster all on its own. We are not going to bring that into console wars.
I'm not trying to. I'm just saying
I
that
know.
kind of fit with the
I
same
know.
category. Sorry to interrupt.
But like
Yeah.
when it came to like the late 90s, early 2000s, PC games were mostly known for, okay, I can't keep eye on my child and the TV is not an option. Let's sit them in front of the computer with like a Pajama Sam mini games.
Minesweeper.
Mostly
Or
Pajama
Minesweeper.
Sam. That was mine. But
I remember the old Minesweeper and the Snake and the skiing downhill one.
Mm-hmm. You were saying?
Ski Freak.
Yep.
Something like, Ski Freak was so weird. Oh my god. It's just what I can say from like a personal opinion here.
Mm-hmm.
Each console, PC, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, they're all unique in their own way. They're all unique, but they all do the exact same thing. They let you play a
They
game.
play games. Mm-hmm.
And each of them specialize in certain things. Like Nintendo's more family friendly. Microsoft and PlayStation are, Microsoft and Sony are more like teenager friendly. And then you have the PC that covers everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I don't understand the console wars. I was a Sega kid, but at the same time I was also a Nintendo kid, and then PlayStation, then a Microsoft, Xbox.
Yep.
And now I am all of it. I am all of it.
Yep.
Well, when it comes to Xbox, I'm only going to play the 360. That's the only one I like. And the PS.
Same here.
The PS3 is all I got. And we still have our Wii. It still runs.
I do have to mention the tiny thing is that I think some of the newer game consoles are kind of shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly with the inclusions and requirements of the internet usage.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they can go back to just the single players without the requirement for net connection, then you're gonna get a lot of leeway just 10 times over already.
Oh no, this is something you're gonna find funny. The EA has been on record constantly pushing this internet service bullshit, and
Right.
early on they said, single player, story driven, blah 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 blah. It's all dead. It's all dead. It's all services, all that shit. Then God of War came out, destroyed that notion, and actually, I believe there's a tweet by the head of God of War 4, who basically flaunted all the sales they had, like in the billions, and said, "You want to say that again?"
Yeah, really.
That's the thing about it. Like, if you, this says more about like the game creators than it says about like the console creators.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're demanding that of your game for multiple people to join, so you have to have internet connection, then you're not putting a lot of oomph. You're not putting a lot into the story. You're not hooking us in. It's like your game without another person is super freaking boring. You have to entertain yourself with. Yeah. Well, Titanfall 2 is good, but we'll get on that.
Yeah, I'm
some other
talking
time.
about the original.
Yeah. Just Minecraft actually manages to do this perfectly. You don't have to play with your friends, and you still have a whole lot of fun. There's no story.
They make it optional.
It's a sandbox game. There's no story. You make your story, and somehow it does amazing. It's a pop culture now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen folks walking down the street wearing the Minecraft shirts. I've seen it with the backpacks and everything. And this is just every day, out in the street, walking down the street.
I actually saw
This is
somebody.
not any.
I saw a kid walking home from school wearing a Captain Sparkles T-shirt. I thought it was I thought it was awesome.
That would have been so cool. I would have said something if I could have thought of something, but
Yeah.
Well, I'm a hermit, so I didn't want to say anything out loud because at the end of the day, I am a 24-year-old woman who's as tall as like a 10th grader. Who looks like
grunt.
I got one worse for you.
Oh.
Remember, you guys know I have a horse. We go to the stable and all that.
Yeah.
Sorry for this little sidetrack. It's real quick. There was a kid visiting one time, and they had some. I forgot how it led into it, but the discussion led into Markiplier. Before I stepped in, before I was involved with this, I was just down the hallway or something. They were talking about Markiplier, and I said, "Where's the blacksmith?" And and down the other end of the hall, I hear, "Oh my God, Markiplier!"
Nice. Oh, nice.
Funny. Very funny.
But like,
anyway,
going back to what we're talking about, like EA, what games do they make mostly?
They don't.
Mostly
hang on. I need to clarify this. EA does not make games. You see, what they do is that they approach studios, they offer them money, they then give them incredibly difficult what's the word? They give them almost impossible goals to meet for sales to get the game continued. If the game doesn't meet those sales, they then they literally kill the studio, integrate the talent, and then move on. There is a reason why EA is called the predator of the gaming industry, and for good reason.
Yeah, I remember reading about that one. That was just
But now
they actually destroyed.
Oh no! Now they're in legal. They're now getting in legal trouble, which I'm oh so happy.
Oh yeah.
Like we're talking about.
There's been more than a few folks call them out for it.
But still, in the long run, like EA does technically make games. You got games that have their logo on it, so they make games. What do they primarily make? Sports games. Sports. That's the thing. Sports. There's no story. There's nothing there. And they have the gall to say that single player story driven games are dying. It's the sports games that are dying. They're getting so repetitive. They're getting so stupid and old. The only good sports game that I've seen is Blitz the League, where you illegally inject your players on the field, and also that Monster one that recently came out. But I didn't watch those videos. But otherwise, sports games are just dying. They need to stop.
I think.
No, there's actually
about the only. You go ahead first. I'll continue later.
No, I need to say this because, like I said before, the legal troubles. EA's sports games have these loot boxes in it, and they go into the 90s. Like you have to pay $90 to get stuff from the game, and I crunched the numbers. I checked it. These FIFA games is literally a quarter of how much money the company as a whole makes. And as of right now, there are countries that are banning all of EA's FIFA games, and are giving them ultimatums. Remove the microtransactions, basically remove your money printers, or your game isn't sold in these countries. And they're in a complete and utter panic right now.
I think I remember reading that a country was banning certain games that EA made because there was the loot box thing. Yeah, because it was basically gambling.
And it is. Yep. It really is. And like I said, they're in a complete and total panic about it. And honestly, at this point, they deserve it. They really do. EA never learned the concept of if you make money, it's fine. You can't make all the money. But their philosophy is if we're not making all the money, we aren't making. And honestly, at this point, they deserve to be what they deserve to fall into bankruptcy. I mean, yeah, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but if they keep pushing the envelope as they're doing, they're going to cause a collapse, or they're going to
It's on
cause
the
more
way.
litigation. It'll be a second video game crash.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
We went from console wars to taking a large shit on EA.
EA deserves it.
Yep. They brought it on themselves. Full stop.
They're the ones that are shooting themselves in the foot.
Constant.
Yep.
And they're trying to take every other person down with them in the process.
They're trying to blame everyone and then some for it.
Exactly.
How about we move on topic now? Like, we have the 2 monthly things, and then we're gonna end.
All right, we've covered.
I wanted to mention real quick, just a small comment, was that with the regards to what sport games were dying off versus what was surviving, about the only ones that are surviving are the golf games. Seriously, that's about all that's surviving, and specifically the ones not made by EA, because you got the mini golf types, you got the actual pro golf types, and you got all the different variations. Yeah, you get the variations.
100-foot robot golf is a masterpiece.
Yeah. You get the variations, you get the different terrains, you get the different challenges. You can play either solo or multiplayer. There you go.
The stuff that is not realistic or looks like it would be something you would see in professional games. Really? Those are the ones that are doing better.
Yeah. And those were all indie-based, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So,
some, not, yeah.
Well, majority of them at least, I think, something like that.
Give me a second. I'm going to mute myself.
Alrighty.
All right. So I guess that covers our thoughts on the console wars. So we have our last two topics of the evening, and that is the mobile suit of the month winner, and HH and Bill's Pokemon of the month, which is a Gen 4, I believe.
Yeah.
Or Generation 4
Gen
Pokemon?
4 poison type.
Okay. Have you guys got one?
Yeah, we're all set. Yeah. Like, do you wanna go first?
Last time I went first, you guys went on for about almost an hour, so I'll let you go first, and then I'll close it out.
Okay.
I'll stay quiet and let HH talk.
All right.
We're actually professional this time. So, we did some research. We actually looked into this. Unlike Altaria, where we held it off until the bitter end. Because we're tired and lazy. Mostly tired.
Mostly tired.
Yeah. Bill especially. The Pokemon of the month of May is Stunky and Stuntank, the skunks. And believe me, mostly because they look a lot better than the frog.
Yep.
But I like the frog.
The frog looks like he's high 24/7.
Yeah, that's what makes
Plus
him fun.
His neck inflates weird. Like, you know how frogs look when their neck inflates. This guy looks weird when it inflates.
Oh, but I like him.
Time out. We're forgetting he likes the cookie.
And
we forgot about that, didn't we?
And the desert rain frog.
Yeah, we forgot about that, didn't we? Okay, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. So, the Stuntank and Stunky, what do they do? What are they used for? Well, general sense, it's like having a pet skunk in home. They're mostly known for being able to stun their enemies, both physically and mentally. If I remember correctly, which one of these is Stunky stats? Properties. This is Stuntank, the next one. This one here. Nope, wrong image. There we go. So this is all of Stunky's stats. Let me put Stuntank away. You can see what he's good against. You can see what he's bad against. You can see what their potential is and what their base stats are. Obviously, these guys spray stinky stuff all over the place when they're agitated. But apparently in the anime, according to Bill, they are also used in for police work.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
There's a few episodes where Officer Jenny was seen with a Stunky by her side instead of the usual Growlithe.
Mm-hmm. I do remember, this is somewhat off topic, but still related. Apparently, the police in Pokemon use a variety of Pokemon. Like, they use one of those magnet guys from the first generation to unlock a door.
Magnemite.
Yeah, him. But Stunky is basically like a gas grenade or something like that for the cops, but obviously not used on other people. Heaven forbid. But
The
like
spray that it can give out lasts a whole day's worth, so
yeah, a whole
good luck.
24 hours. Stun Tank is worse
It festers and grows worse with
if you
age.
leave it alone. Yeah. It protects itself by spraying a noxious fluid from its butt. The stench lingers for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. But like I'm
Stun
looking
Tank
at
shoots it from the tip of his tail.
basically its butt.
Sorry.
But basically its abilities, I'm actually seeing something that's surprising. It knows flamethrower. Okay.
Huh.
The stinky thing knows flamethrower.
If I can go a little bit off topic, I can give you a good reasoning why, but I don't want to do that right now because that's disgusting.
I don't.
All right, then we're
I
moving
really
on.
don't. It lights its own farts on fire.
Bingo.
I mean, come on. There's a Tremors movie where they do that. Anyway,
True. Good point.
I'm looking at all of its abilities. The ones that really stand out is Astonish. There's Explosion. There's Substitution. There's all these. Also, Faint and Attract. Where is it? I saw it. Facade. That's it. Facade. But it has all these abilities that would stun their enemies in some way. Obviously, that's how it gets its name, other than the fact that it smells really, really bad. So, home life, it would be just like having a pet skunk. In reality, if you have a pet skunk, you remove those glands as soon as possible. But I guess
not everyone does, but in general, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I feel so bad for the people that don't do that.
Well, some folks somehow are able to generate an ability to not have a problem with it.
Yeah. But
then again, there's worse smells than a skunk, so.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a flower and there's a fungus.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. So in general, it's used for police work, and if you're an idiot, it can be used for criminal work. There is a link to Stunky in the description below, and it'll lead you right to Stun Tank as well. Stun Tank is basically a bigger version of Stunky.
Mm-hmm.
It has all the exact same abilities, albeit a lot stronger, and the stats that it has, which is now on screen, have changed only a little bit. But on that, they're basically the same. I have noticed that they look like a 90s cartoon cat.
Yep. Well, it's like I said in the discussion when we were looking through this. It's basically like Purloin or Liepard, the dark cat type Pokemon, just stinkier. Because they're basically just... I mean, that's pretty much what skunks kind of are like in reality as well, so...
In reality, when a skunk sprays you, it makes you vomit horrifically.
Yeah. And pass out quite easily.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck trying to move anywhere.
It sprays a vile smelling fluid from the tip of its tail to attack. Its range is over 160 feet. Dear Lord.
I'm afraid to ask how accurate it is.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, me neither, because that would just tell me whether I can run or not, and I don't want to know that.
It does know psychic abilities, so be warned.
Yeah.
It knows one psychic ability.
Changes the game field.
Only one psychic. Rest.
I never understood why they call that one a psychic type, but oh well.
It does have focus energy, so that's another issue. Back up 5 feet and you're safe from a stun tank.
In theory.
Skun tank. That's it. Skun tank.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, home life is just a little cuddly, stinky pet.
Mm-hmm.
Work life, it's a cop. Stupid life, it's a criminal.
Crooks.
Put it simple,
Yeah,
that's
a
it.
crook's
We're
best
done.
friend.
We're done with Skuntank and Stunky.
All
That
right.
wasn't so hard.
So what was the time on that one this time?
I
It's
wasn't
like
paying
10
attention.
minutes.
10
10, 20
minutes.
minutes.
Because we were prepared. Also, I gotta stop yelling.
And also, I have to stop yelling like right now.
Like, this is the
No.
thing. When I'm in a call with people, I instinctively start yelling just to talk.
Yeah, I understand.
I was kind of
I
worried
guess
about
I'm
the
the
mic
closer.
picking it up, so sorry.
So I'm the closer tonight, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All
Have
right
fun.
then. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you all, well, I might as well announce the winner of the mobile suit. All three of you voted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
3 people voted.
And and the winner is the Draw C. The Dom was a close second. So, without further ado, I will speak about Xeon's most unusual mobile suit out there, the Draw C. HH, I am sending you all the images of it right now.
Okay.
All right, if you guys want to talk about during this, it's fine with me.
Oh, no. I'm gonna... I need to stay muted. So just send me the images. Tell me when to put them up. I will. Otherwise, I have
All
no
right.
input on this.
Okay.
I was just
Most of
saying
the
muted
images.
to not laugh too loud. Sorry.
Okay, so the most of the images I will produce will be in order as I speak about the weapon, so don't worry. So let me begin with the Draw C overall. The Draw C, as seen on the wait, it's not even up on the image on the screen yet. Oh wait, no, I'm not. Wait, I'm not live. Oh my god, that's embarrassing. Oh, hold on.
I'm only one person, Rev. Dear gods.
Sorry. My computer freaked.
I am controlling everything here. I'm
No,
controlling audio and I'm
no.
controlling visual. Be patient.
No. My live stream was 5 minutes behind.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
There's your image. I'm going back to muted.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. So anyway, as everyone can see on the image right here, the Draw C is one of the more unusual suits of Xeon. This was a few years after the Principality lost the 1-year war. As most people can probably tell from the design alone, this thing was not an official mobile suit created by the Principality. This was, in fact, created and produced by the Xeon Remnant, more specifically, the Dalas fleet post the 1-year war 3 years later in 0083. The Draw C is actually created of the following mobiles components. I will look at it real quick in the... sorry. my mistake. The Draw C is created out of the following parts and components. It is created from an old Gatil fighter. These were fighters used during the war, pretty small, pretty useless due to the use of mobile suits. The torso and arms were borrowed from the MS-06F2, the Zaku F2 type, and most of it was used as a patrol vessel, a scouting vessel. The eye in the center of the head actually could move all around the head on a track system, meaning it could look up, to the sides, and forward. This made it the perfect reconnaissance unit for the Dalas fleet during the Xeon War, during the Remnant War several years later. It is quite frail, quite small, and really couldn't be used outside of major skirmishes or conflicts. Most leaders tended to keep them away from the front lines, but due to the fact that the mobile suits they had at the time were less than effective and were so few, they had to start deploying these things into the front line. Unfortunately, it was just as useful as tying a gun to a horse and telling it to run forward. Speaking of guns, let's get into the weapons. Starting off on the left-hand side, is the shield. The shield is welded onto the form of the mobile suit. However, what makes the suit unique is the fact that it actually has a beam saber built into the suit itself, allowing it to fight and battle against most enemies. This allows it to be a close range mobile suit as well as a far distance one. The shield's primary equipment, aside from, sorry, my mistake, I'm getting caught up on my own words here. Hold on. Oh, something went weird here. The shield was actually built out of spare scrap metal, usually found on the hulls of other ships and other mobile suits. As a result, it really couldn't protect much of the draw sea. And as seen on the image, on the screen now, the beam saber was built into the shield itself. When the draw sea was in close range, it could easily close the fist and produce the beam saber itself, allowing it to fight in close in close quarters with other mobile suits. The beam saber could withstand other beam sabers, but unfortunately, due to the fact that it was built into the shield, it was unable to fight, well, adequately. And more often than not, it would lose these duels horribly. Also, since the shield was not particularly built out of strong alloys, it was not as useful as one would hope. At most, it could probably block one rocket or even a few stray shots before being destroyed. The right arm is actually, my mistake, the right arm is actually a gun, a beam rifle. This weapon was integrated into the into the draw C as it began to, well, enter production. Most Xeon Remnant believed that adding the rifle onto the making it basically a gun arm would be more effective than having a beam weapon on hand. Since the draw C was built for speed, it was oftentimes sent in without heavy weapons of any kind. This beam mounted, I almost dropped something, my mistake. This beam weapon allowed it to engage hostiles at a distance. However, the the accuracy and the strength of the beam weapon was less effective than one would hope. Again, this is a constant problem with the Draw C. It could, it was not built for combat, and it was built for just long distance battle and combat, long distance battles and scouting mission. But unfortunately, like I said before, due to the limited use of the limited nature of Xeon at the time, and the fact that they were losing so many forces to the Federation, make sacrifices and sorry, they had to make sacrifices in many areas. This meant oftentimes putting inexperienced pilots into these things, actually making them far less reliable than the Federation's own ball units. The Draw C would eventually cease seeing production after the events of 0030, but would see reintroduction in the in the Neo-Xeon forces referred to as the Sleeves. Since this machine was reintegrated into the Sleeves military during the event, during several years later, this new version of the Draw C was much better equipped, and oftentimes better suited for long-range combat. I will produce an image of the Draw C from Neo-Xeon, since technically speaking, it is the same mobile suit with a different Gatling arm. With a different arm weapon. Hopefully this isn't too much going on at once. Like I said before, the Draw C was very much a cobbled together, misshapen vehicle that was built for a purpose. And unfortunately, despite how much Xeon wanted to keep fighting at the time, they just could not do it. And they couldn't keep producing mobile suits like they used to. The The Sleeves Draw C, of course, as most people can see on the screen right now, had a different color scheme. Where the Draw C used to be blue, it was now a pinkish purple, symbolizing the affiliation with Haman Khan and Neo-Xeon as a whole. The right arm was replaced from a simple beam rifle to a beam Gatling gun. Much stronger power, much better yield, and overall more effective than the pitiful beam rifle on the right arm. Of course, this did mean that the Draw C would have to use its other arm to engage in combat more frequently, making it less effective at close range. It would still keep the beam saber in the shield, but the shield was quickly overhauled, and used better alloys, making it stronger and more capable for combat. Unfortunately, the same issues as the original Draw C reared their ugly head, meaning the Draw C was only meant to be used for reconnaissance missions and nothing else. During the events of the Unicorn Gundam's attacks, and of course the attacks of Full Frontal and Neo Zeon, the Draw Cs were deployed into battle, and many were destroyed. This ancient mobile suit's design was so archaic that not many survived their battles, and only the truly insane could use them. Overall, the Draw C was one of the more creative vehicles post-Principality of Xeon world, but unfortunately, it was ill-suited for close-range combat, and much of its design and its functionality would be reused years later by the Ewak Zak of the Titans and Neo Zeon. Overall, in my opinion, an interesting mobile suit, and one that marks a beginning and a change in Xeon's history.
All right.
Yee. Sorry, I went a bit off. Sorry, I kept having trouble speaking. I'm getting used to this.
That's all right.
All right, any comments, thoughts?
Nope.
Nothing really coming to mind.
Nope.
All right. Well, guess that's it. I will be updating the straw poll to have new mobile suits for next month's voting process. And still trying to
again,
learn
I will
this.
be spamming Tumblr with that. Do you have a link to the wiki page of this Gundam, by the way?
Oh yeah, my mistake. I'll send it to you privately. Again, I'm pretty sure I might have fucked a few things up, so I'm just going to give you this so people can look for it themselves and tell me how much.
There we go.
Yeah.
It is added to the description.
Something my dad would usually say regarding if you screwed something else up or whatever or something like that. Welcome to the club.
Yep. Yep. I can't think of anything else to say, so we're just gonna end it tonight.
Yeah.
I do have one tiny comment about the earlier topic about thinking of Jacinto.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they were doing all those holes around the city was because the entire city was on solid rock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was surrounded by an ocean.
Right. Now the thing is, what they were doing is the same process as what you would see in a rock quarry or, say, a granite mine, is that they were drilling the holes, basically almost like mining it out by chipping away bit by bit with these different holes.
Yeah. Kind of makes sense.
Yep.
All right. I also want to say this real quick. I think for this next voting process, I'm going to remove the Draw C. I'm going to keep the other ones up, but I'm going to add a new one in, just so people can have another chance at voting something else.
Yep. There is a blog for Left for Random Talk. It is in the description below. We've only have like 2 links total from the topics today. Eternal Darkness and Gears of War.
Holy crap.
And that's it. Things have just been dry lately.
Yeah.
If it's going to continue like that, if we only have 1 or 2 topics next week, then we're probably not going to do a show next week. And in between Wednesdays, I do art streams and I do gaming streams. And I am going to start taking art commissions. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah.
I got one for you. We can discuss that some other time, though.
Okay, some other time. For now, we're going to close out because I am getting very tired and winded, and I have nothing else to say.
Yep. So, thank you everyone for stopping by, and thank you everyone for watching the post. This has been Rev.
And Hellhounds20 of YouTube. Hellhounds fails at Minecraft and Tumblr.
In the peanut gallery.
And the peanut fuck off.
And Bill, or Shadowpaw, as he's sometimes called.
That's usually the go-to name.
Yep.
Yeah. No Blobby this week, so we'll have
Blob
to
will be
wait next week.
returning next week, possibly for was it bootleg?
Bootleg toys, yes.
The 10-minute bootleg where I will lose my voice.
I gotta make sure to be there next time then, because that's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, we did that last week.
So, like I said, see you guys.
Later.